In 2005, David Pacos lives in Miami, Florida, working as a massage therapist and living with his girlfriend Liz. Desiring an additional source of income, David spends his life savings on high-quality Egyptian cotton sheets, planning to sell them to Miami retirement homes, but this venture fails to produce results. At a funeral for a friend, David runs into his high school best friend Ephraim DeVerily, who had moved to Los Angeles some years prior to work with his uncle selling guns. Ephraim has left his uncle and formed his own company, AY, which fills orders for arms placed by the U.S. government due to the ongoing war in Iraq. David's life takes another turn when his girlfriend informs him that she is pregnant. Ephraim offers him a job at AEY, and even though David and his both vehemently oppose the war, David eventually agrees, telling his girlfriend that he has begun selling his cotton sheets to the U.S. government through Ephraim's contacts. Ephraim explains to David that all orders placed for military equipment are posted on a public website, or anyone can place bids on filling the orders, and their job is to find the small orders that larger contractors do not bother with and place bids on them, with these smaller orders still being worth millions of dollars. A local small business owner, Ralph Slutsky, assists the business with funding, under the false belief that AEY only sells arms to help protect Israel. Eventually, David and Ephraim land a contract to provide several thousand Beretta pistols to U.S. troops stationed in Baghdad, a deal that would put them on the map. Unfortunately, an Italian embargo blocks the shipment to Iraq, so Ephraim attempts to route the shipment through Jordan, but the shipment gets held up there as well. With his discovering David's true business by overhearing a conversation between him and Ephraim, leaving her upset, David and Ephraim have to fly to Jordan to free up their cargo or risk being blacklisted by the U.S. government for failing to deliver. In Jordan, Ephraim manages to use bribes to free up the Beretta shipment, but are still not allowed to fly the cargo to Baghdad without a permit that will take several weeks to acquire. The guns are loaded up into a truck and the two are provided with a driver who offers to drive the guns to Iraq, as no permit is required for driving guns across the border. The three drive through the night, at one point bribing Border Patrol with 2 cartons of cigarettes, and at another point being attacked by insurgents while trying to get gas, but eventually arrive at the military base. Captain Santos, the man receiving the shipment, is impressed by the lengths the two went through to get the guns to him, and the two are paid. After this, AY continues to secure larger deals and make more money, even moving into a larger office and hiring more employees, and David welcomes a daughter named Ella. Ephraim, however, continues to grow more unstable and untrustworthy, as the company is suddenly given a chance to land their biggest deal yet. Known as the Afghan deal, the U.S. government wishes to arm the Afghan military for the long term, and post a massive order worth $300 million, which includes 100 million rounds of AK-47 ammunition and would have netted the war dogs a $100 million profit. Filling this order proves to be nigh impossible for such a relatively small company, particularly in that there is a global shortage on AK-47 ammunition, but the two end up lucking into an encounter with legendary U.S. arms dealer Henry Girard. Girard has access to the massive weapon storage that were created in Albania but never used, and must now be disposed of in accordance with NATO treaties, which includes well over 100 million rounds of AK-47 ammunition. Gerard cannot directly deal with the U.S. government anymore, due to being on a watch list, and wants to make the deal through AEY. Ephraim agrees, although David expresses discomfort working with a man who is on a terrorist watch list. The two go to Albania to confirm that the ammunition works, then place a bid on the contract that ends up being $50 million less than any other bid due to the low price of the rounds. Meanwhile, Is grows frustrated with David's continuing string of lies about his work, and leaves to live with her mother. They win the contract, but then David realizes that virtually all of the rounds are Chinese-made, which makes them illegal, as there is currently an embargo on Chinese arms. Ephraim comes up with the idea of repackaging the rounds in generic packaging, pretending that they are concerned about the weight of the shipments. As the rounds are repackaged and shipped off, with David overseeing the process, Ephraim plots to try to cut Henry out of the deal after discovering that Henry charged them with a 400% markup on the rounds. David protests, leading Ephraim to destroy the partnership contract between he and David on the Afghan deal and go ahead with his plan to cut Henry out and short the workers repackaging the rounds on their pay. Henry retaliates by having David kidnapped from his hotel room, beaten, and held at gunpoint before leaving him alive, as well as seemingly having his Albanian driver killed. David leaves Albania. On arriving back at Miami, David says he wants out of AEY and demands a payoff from Ephraim of $4 million from the work he had done, but with the contract gone, Ephraim refuses. David returns to working as a massage therapist and convinces Is to move back in with him by telling her the truth about everything he had been doing for AEY. Weeks later, Ephraim offers a severance package of $200,000 to David, which David responds to by threatening to blackmail him with the evidence he has of the falsified documentation the two created to look like a respectable company so they could secure the Afghan deal. Shortly after this, David and Ephraim are both arrested by the FBI. The men who had been hired to repackage the rounds had never been paid by Ephraim, causing them to report the crime to U.S. authorities, leading them to arrest Ralph Slutsky. Ralph had agreed to wear a wire during a meeting between David and Ephraim, giving the FBI enough to make an arrest. Ephraim is sentenced to 4 years in prison for charges related to the Afghan deal, and David gets 7 months house arrest in exchange for cooperating with the investigation. David meets with Henry, who apologizes for the kidnapping and assault in Albania, claiming he had bad information. He also thanks David for not mentioning his name in his confession to the FBI. David begins to ask questions about the events of the deal, including about the fate of his Albanian driver. Henry pulls out a suitcase full of money, a part of his cut from the Afghan deal, and offers it to David in exchange for dropping the subject. The movie ends, David's choice of taking the money or not left ambiguous.